This video is all about consciousness shifting. In particular, we're going to lay out the process by which we do it and step by step the exact and detailed instructions for the things you might see, feel, experience, hear as we're doing it. Hi, I am Brent Phillips. I am the founder and creator of the Awakening Dynamic System of Energy Healing and Higher Consciousness. And I'm here with you today with video number 6 in our YouTube series on consciousness shifting. And again, in this video, we're going to talk about the nitty-gritty of exactly what happens when we do this process and what you might experience. So let's get into it. Number 1, let's talk about the setup. Now, at the end of the day, this is meant as an open eye meditation. And over time, I hope you start using this in your day-to-day life. That real advanced meditation is not meant to be done 5 or 10 minutes once or twice a week sitting with your eyes closed alone. That's for beginners. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to start. But the most advanced meditations are meant to be integrated into your day-to-day life. But when you're first starting, you probably want to be in a place where you're quiet and won't be disturbed. That's just when you're starting. Again, over time, you should be able to do this in the middle of a battlefield. But when you're starting, it's ideal if you can be quiet and undisturbed and have 3, 5, 10 minutes when you don't have to think about anything else. Now, in terms of light levels, I prefer low light, but that's really just to make it easier to see the energy. So if you're not worried about the visual effects, if it's not important to you to see auras or past lives or any of that, don't worry about the light level. But if you do want to see that kind of stuff, if you're into the brain candy, if you think it'd be neat to see someone's past lives or read their aura, what I would encourage you to do is put on low light, just a little bit, couple candles. The reason is it's easier to see energy in low light conditions. If it's totally dark or super bright, you can't see it. It's much harder. So if you want to see the energy, low light, turn off most of the big lights. All right, so next question is, what do we look at? The consciousness shifting is often done as a form of gazing. Now, it doesn't have to be done as gazing. You can move your eyes around, you can look at trees and the sky and stars, and it doesn't have to be people. But most people, when they first started, prefer to do this as a process of gazing with another person. And so when I like to do it, I like to look into the left eye. There's an old saying that the left eye is the window to the soul. But you don't have to do it that way. That's just how I like to do it. Here's the important thing. If you want to go deep into the quantum field, do your best to pick one spot to focus on. Because as you move your eyes around, move your head, change your perspective, it disconnects you, pulls you out. So pick one spot to focus on. If you're doing it with me, say through Zoom or something, you might want to look at my left eye. But you don't have to. You could look at a doorknob, you could look at the camera pinhole on your computer, any of that works. Just pick one spot to focus on. The next thing is try to minimize your blinking. Now, in terms of the kinesthetic effect and releasing pain, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But you will find that the less you blink, the deeper you go into the field. I would also not encourage you to ping your eyes open, right? This is not Clockwork Orange where we're going to get a bunch of clothespins and levers and things and force someone's eyes to be open. No. It's just you'll find as we get into it, especially as you start to connect into the field, you'll start to get deeper, things will fade away, you see the auras, the past lives, you hear the tone, you're really grooving, and then you blink and it's all gone. But don't worry, it comes back very quickly. So each time you blink, it disconnects you for a few seconds, and then you go back in. But I would say if you want to go deeper, faster, build your skill, just try to minimize your blinking. But don't force it, and if you really have to blink, please blink. Listen to your body, right? Awesome. Next thing. Let's talk about the natural stages you will go through as you're learning this. And there is a natural learning curve that almost everybody goes through. It starts in stage 1. In stage 1, you've heard about it. Maybe you saw my video, your friend talked about it or something, and you're like, wow, that sounds so cool, right? I want to see energies and dissolve pain and see auras and past lives and all that cool stuff, right? So you come to a session, probably a group session, maybe a recording, and nothing happens. Maybe you believe others are having an experience, but you don't see it. So that's stage 1. Maybe you want to, but you're just not getting it. If that's you, that's okay. Most people need multiple exposures sometimes in a group, sometimes you might need a one-on-one to really break through. I probably had 8 or 10 group sessions plus 2 private sessions with my mentor before I really started to connect into the field and see the energy and feel the effects. So if you're not getting it, don't worry, just keep at it. Everybody gets this 100%. I'd say about half of people get it in their very first try. Very first session, you start to get it. If that's you, awesome. If not, keep at it. It might take you 5, 10, 15 sessions. If you get more than 10 in groups and you're not getting it, do a one-on-one. That may be what you need to push through. So real simple. Stage 1, you're not getting it at all. Keep at it. You will. Stage 2. This is where many of you will be very quickly if you're not there already. In stage 2, you can feel the effects of the quantum field. You can see a little bit of energy. Maybe you see a little bit of aura or a face change or a past life, but you can only do it when there's a facilitator tuning the field for you. And that's why I'm here. That's why we have experts and teachers and facilitators, that you can try really hard to do it on your own, but nothing happens. And then you come work with me and there it is. But right, the aura, the faces change, the lightness, the pain dissolving, connection, presence, all that good stuff. So stage 1, you don't get it at all. Keep at it. Stage 2, you can feel it, sense it a little bit, but only when someone's doing it with you. That's totally normal. Stick with it. At some point, if you do it enough times, in group sessions, in one-on-ones, at the Healathon, at the intensives, in private sessions, watching YouTube videos, as much exposure as you can, you will move on to stage 3. And stage 3 is where it starts to happen for you spontaneously without a facilitator. Now, for me, this started to happen a couple times. One was at the end of my hot yoga classes, is when I was first learning this with my late mentor, Carl. I was going to the world headquarters for Bikram Yoga. Now deceased and defunct, he's a fugitive, long drama, won't get into it here, right? But I was so exhausted at the end of the session, sometimes when I'd be laying there in Savasana, I started to get it. I'm like, oh, there it is, the quantum field. Another time it happened for me when I was doing Buddhist chanting, especially with a group. There is some magic to that chant, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So after I'd done the consciousness shifting enough times with Carl, I was able to start having it happen to me spontaneously. Often when I was chanting, sometimes after yoga, and also at vortex locations. It would happen sometimes spontaneously at vortex locations. So that was pretty cool. So again, stage 1, you don't get it. Stage 2, you start to feel it, but only with a facilitator working with you. Stage 3, it starts to happen spontaneously without a facilitator. Then stage 4, you learn to control it. You learn to develop that sensitivity so you can connect into that field, turn it up, turn it down, connect in other people anytime you want for the whole rest of your life. How awesome is that, people? I think it's freaking awesome. So before we get into the details of how that works, I want to give you guys a question, and I'd love for you to answer in the comments. And it's this. If you were just walking down the street, say outside your local grocery store, and someone walked up to you with a big chunk of money in their hands and offered you a $100 bill, no strings attached. Just, would you like some money, sir? Here you go. What would you do? Would you accept it? Would you run the other way? Would you call the police? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Now, I mention this because they did this here. I live in Las Vegas as I'm recording this. A couple years ago, they had a reporter standing on a street corner and a cameraman nearby hidden recording it. This woman offered everyone who walked by a $100 bill, no strings attached. Here's what's crazy. Most people didn't take the money. Most people backed away from her and looked afraid. They thought it was some scam or con. And here's why I mention this. So let me know, what would you do? Would you take the money? Would you examine the money? Would you call the cops? Would you run away? Would you start filming it for your YouTube channel? Let me know. Here's why I mention this. Me being here on this channel, giving you all this really advanced spiritual knowledge and technique for free, is kind of like someone standing on a street corner handing out $100 bills, but nobody wants them. Heck, it's actually worse than that. Imagine standing on a street corner handing out $1 million bills. I can say with 100% certainty, had I not learned this technique from Carl and used it over years and years, I would have missed out on at least $1 million. The addition in my income, my prosperity, my business, everything, worth way more than $1 million. So I'm here standing, handing out $1 million bills for free. What are you going to do about it? If I were you, I'd accept it, say thank you, and go enjoy your money. All right, so back to our content. There is a natural process that occurs, again, as you're learning this. At first, you may think we're all nuts, or maybe you believe it but don't see it. Stage 1. Stage 2, you have an experience, but only with a trained facilitator like me, tuning the field. Stage 3, you start to have spontaneous experiences without a facilitator. That's cool. And stage 4, you learn to control it. So what is that like? Well, it's pretty simple, people. I'm going to warn you, the metaphor I use is a little crude, but it's so perfect. And it's this. It's taking a pee, going to the bathroom. What does it feel like when I tune in and out of the field? Well, let me ask you this. If the aliens came down from outer space tomorrow and landed in your backyard, and you come out, you're like, hey, aliens, what's up? They're like, oh, man, Earthers, let's talk. You're like, you know what, guys? Give me 1 second. I need to go take a pee and I'll be right out with some coffee. And the aliens are like, oh, what is this peeing thing? How does that work? That's interesting. How would you explain to the aliens what it feels like to go pee? It's kind of difficult, right? And most of us learned this when we were 2 or 3 years old. I would say it goes something like this. When you need to pee, there's pressure in your bladder. There's a sensation you feel in your body. And then when we potty train as toddlers, we learn how to control the muscles to release or contract. And that's how we go to the bathroom. How would you explain that to an alien that doesn't have a human body? Maybe the aliens don't need to pee like we do. How would you explain that? It's kind of hard. That's what it's like to tune into the field. It's a sensitivity within your body. And I feel it in my body similar to the way I feel when I need to pee. It's not exactly the same. It's not centered in your bladder. But it's just this weird sensation. And you learn how to control it and make it go up and down and in and out and back and forth. And I wish I could put a more detailed step-by-step process here, but we can't. This is a fundamentally feminine energy, difficult to define and measure and control, but incredibly powerful, like the ocean, immensely powerful and wild and uncontrollable. But if we can harness just a little bit of that power, it will absolutely transform your life in enormous ways. That's all I got to say for right now. If you enjoy this video, please click like, please click subscribe, share it with your friends. The more you watch this video, the more I'm going to create, the more we can change our lives together. I'm Brent Michael Phillips, signing off for now. We'll see you soon with video number 7 in this series on consciousness shifting. And until then, please take care and namaste.